The United States of America seems to be serious about the coronavirus vaccine coming out by the end of the year 2020. This morning, CNN News reported promising early result for coronavirus vaccine trial, where they had Dr. Sarjan Gupta, the CNN chief medical correspondent, that says that they took a little piece of the virus, injected it into the body, and it created this little virus over and over again, and then created an antibody. He said they gave the vaccine to the people who got coronavirus, and it created antibodies to them. And antibodies, can neutralize the virus. It was tested on a test tube, and according to him, it proved real. He said the vaccine is already being administered to dozens of patients in the United States. And in July, it will start a large scale medical trial. And guess what? By January 2021, it will be born. The vaccine will be on the market. Come on. The United States has done in this time. I think we should applaud them. I want you to watch this news.
Anja, let's start with positive news. The vaccine. Moderna said early results show that people in this study developed antibodies against the virus. So explain to us what that means.
Yeah, I mean, this is encouraging news, Jake. This is a whole new different kind of vaccine. What they did was they took a blueprint of a little piece of the virus, and they used that essentially to inject into the body. The body then creates this piece of the virus over and over again, and the body makes antibodies to it. Okay, that's a little bit hard to understand maybe, but this is a whole new different kind of vaccine. In the past, Jake, you take a little piece of the virus and give that to try and elicit an antibody response. This is brand new. We didn't know if it was going to work. I mean, this is we're seeing the results now for the first time together, and what we're seeing is that when they gave even the lowest doses of this vaccine, the body, the people who got the vaccine, did make antibodies, and they made antibodies at the same level as if they had become infected. So when you get infected, you make antibodies. When you get a vaccine, you make antibodies. This seems to be the same now with the amount of antibodies. You gave more vaccine, you got even more antibodies. Now, I'll just explain this. When you actually put the antibodies and the virus in a test tube together, those antibodies then seem to neutralize the virus, which is what you want to see, that neutralizing activity. Is it actually going to have an impact on the virus? And the answer seems to be yes. These are early studies, very, very early data, Jake, but this is proof of concept. And I've never seen this work before. The investigators haven't seen it work before in humans. So if this carries out, I mean, that could potentially be some good news.
Yeah, potentially fantastic news. So that's phase one. What are the next steps as Moderna looks to go to phase two and then phase three in the coming weeks and months?
Yeah, let me show you the timeline quickly because this is at the heart of all the discussions, right? When might this be available? Phase two was already announced. They already knew they were going to go into phase two. That's going to be larger trials. They're going to do that through sort of the end of the summer or beginning of July sort of time frame. If that still seems to show these results, where you have these signals of efficacy, then they're going to start going into phase three trials sort of by the end of summer or early fall. I mean, the timeline's a little loose there. And each time you go into a new phase, Jake, you're incorporating more and more people, and you're trying to get a sense of what is the right dose, who are the right populations of people that are going to most benefit from this, elderly, children, people in between, people with pre-existing conditions. Might there be booster shots that are necessary? These are all the sorts of questions I want to sort of answer. Important thing, Jake, and you and I've talked about this, but the US government is going to make a bunch of gambles. They're probably going to look at this vaccine from Moderna, a few others, and they're going to just go ahead and start manufacturing this even before those phase three results come in. That's what we heard from this Operation Warp Speed press announcement. It's a gamble because it costs a lot of money to do that. But the reason you do it, Jake, as you might guess, is then you have the vaccine available.
Does this make the vaccine timeline, theoretically, that we could have something in 12 months, 18 months, that timeline that we've heard Dr. Fauci and others say, does it make it seem more likely?
Yeah, I mean, I guess what Dr. Fauci has said since January, since the beginning of all this, when they started working on the vaccine, was 12 to 18 months. He's always, it's always a loose time frame, but 12 months would obviously be January of next year. 18 months would be the summer of next year. I mean, it's, I guess, possible to start being able to vaccinate people by early next year if this still goes forth. Again, this is very early data, but if it continues to have this sort of efficacy, this sort of effectiveness, you could have some people start to get vaccinated by early next year. Probably those would be healthcare workers, people who are at great risk, and then you start to gradually increase the population of people who get vaccinated. I think the question will be, how long does it take for the vaccine to kick in? For example, with this study, it was about 43 days when you started to see enough antibodies to start neutralizing the virus. So, what is that, a month and a half? So you have to think about, does someone need a booster shot at that point? There's all these considerations, is my point, Jake. But yes, is the answer to the question. Early next year, spring, summer, around that time frame is conceivable.